They stood side by side, shoulder to shoulder, and answered the call. They moved forward, advancing the ideas that everyone was free, everyone was created equal, everyone has the right to pursue their own dreams, and that our nation was founded on those ideals. But not all of them came back. Some remained, never to go home, never to see their families. And some we lost this side of the field of battle. They were sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, fathers and mothers, greatly loved. They charged forward for honor and peace and freedom. We acknowledge the empty space where we want them to be. Together we pay sincere tribute to those who fought for us, those we remember, those we love.
Hey guys, good morning and happy Memorial Day. Today we celebrate and honor all those who have served and sacrificed so much to establish the freedom of our country. As a Marine Corps veteran, I salute and honor every single one of you, and thank you for your service. My name is Rafiq, and I am a volunteer here at New Vintage Church, and I am very proud to call this my church home. We are so glad that you joined us for some amazing music with our band and a message from our new pastor, Darren. Go ahead, Jeff, take it away.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my tomb till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my turn till I met you. You called my name. I ran out of that grave. Your mercy has saved my soul. Now your freedom is all I know. The old made new, yeah. Jesus, when I met you, oh, you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy, chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. You called me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open. 'Cause when you called my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness to your glorious day. Oh, well, come on. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. You unravel me with melody. You surround me with the song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again to your family. Your blood flows through my veins. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. And I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. a child of God, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. God, I'm on my knees again. God, I'm begging, please again. I need you. Oh, I need you. Walking down these desert roads, water for my thirsty soul. I need you. Oh, I need you. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. Hey! Oh. Dead man walking, slave to sin. I wanna know about being born again. I need you. Oh, I need you. So take me to the riverside, take me under, baptize. I need you. God, I need you. And your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. Like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. On my skin. Oh. I don't want to abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me want to change. I don't want to abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me want to change. I don't want to abuse your grace. God, I need it every day. It's the only thing that ever really makes me want to change. Your forgiveness is like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. Like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water. It's like sweet, sweet honey on my lips. It's like the sound of a symphony to my ears. It's like holy water on my skin. Oh, it's like holy water on my skin. Oh, holy water on my skin.
in the final week of our series, Unmasked, Risking the Reveal to Encounter Connection. And I think it's working. I've heard from some of you who have said, I feel like these stories are helping to connect us to one another. Like, I'm so excited to get back and see everybody, and it's been so helpful to hear people's stories and to know that I'm not alone and to see, oh, that's my story similar to their story. I've gotten to hear a few more just through the emails that some of you have sent to me that maybe haven't been recorded on video, and I feel more connected to many of you. And quite frankly, Molly and I and the girls and Smith, we cannot wait to get out to California. And so we're excited about what is ahead. And I'm excited about today for you to hear these stories one last time. And the reason we're doing this whole thing is really to train ourselves or to remind ourselves that church really should be a safe place for people to get real. It's a tough place for people to get real sometimes because maybe historically our experiences with the church has been more centered around judgment or being looked at funny. But that's not who we want New Vintage to be. Who we want New Vintage to be is a place that you can bring your worst and we will give you our best. And we will love you where you are. And we won't necessarily leave you there. In fact, most of these stories are about transformation, about the fact that God showed up in the middle of a mess and things were transformed. We don't want the story to be that, hey, we love you right where you are and you never have to change and nothing has to get better for you. Just stay right there in the mess and we'll love you right there in the mess. No, we're going to love you in the mess, but we don't want anybody to stay stuck in the mess. And so I've loved hearing these stories about people who have transformed their lives because they connected to a God who cared. And we hope that for all of you who are listening, if you haven't yet connected with a God who cares, we hope you have a moment when you do. And so we hope that these stories have been encouraging to you. Today we're going to hear from three ladies. Shockingly, we've heard more stories from ladies. Fellas, we can do better. Men, we can do better than that, right? I'm so excited for the men of New Vintage, for the men of Sonoma County. I am excited to be a part of helping men live a fully alive life, a life that is the life that you want as a man, as a leader, as a boss, as a husband, as a son, as a father. I mean, I am looking forward to the day where we get to work on men becoming the men that God made us to be, the man that you want to be, the man that I know you're looking to find. I've actually, frankly, I've got 3 or 4 men here in Georgia who have called me up and said, D-Train, that's what they call me here, D-Train, which you don't have to call me that, but D-Train, hey, we want to come and we want to be a part of helping you help the men of that of your new church of Sonoma County. We want to help the men become great dads and fathers in that city. We want men to be fully alive and chase. I mean, these are guys who've just been at this for years who are like, tell us how we can help the men be great men. And so, men of Sonoma County of New Vintage, I'm stoked for the relationships we're going to build. But today we're hearing from the ladies. The ladies have stepped up. It's too late, man. It's too late. You can't step up into this moment right here, right now. Next time we do this, we're going to hear from more men, I assume. But right now, today, we're going to hear from 3 incredible ladies. And it's going to be fantastic. And I want you to listen to all 3 stories and stay with us all the way through because these 3 stories are going to be impactful. Before I let them have the stage, I want you to know, parents, if you're watching with young kids, some of the content, the subject material of these 3 stories might be a little more heavy or traumatic or challenging for you to have conversations around. And so if you're watching this with your young kids, you might want to preview it first before you decide if you're ready to have the conversations that might happen as a result of what they hear today. So just want to throw that out to you as a warning as we get started, that you might want to check this out first and then decide if it's something your kids should listen to. It's nothing crazy, but I just want to give you that heads up just in case it's necessary. And today we're going to hear from Christy, from Caitlin, and from Anne-Marie in that order. And I'm sure now that I've given the alert and the warning for children, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, I'm in now. There's a child warning? What is this, Darren? Tell me more. I'm tuning in. Well, the stories today are a little bit heavy and a little bit hard and a little bit challenging, but I believe they're powerful. And I believe that listening to these stories today is going to, for some of you, potentially change the course of your life. For some of you, it's going to change the direction that your life moves. And I'm praying that it does. Because I know for some of you, you need a moment where you connect with God and things change from where they are to where they need to go. So listen to these stories. Listen to all three. Christy, thanks for kicking us off. Thank you for sharing with us today your story. Christy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Christy Spina, and I have a story that I would like to share with you today. Unfortunately, the story starts off with a tragedy. On February the 20th, 2008, my closest and dearest friend was involved in a solo fatal car accident. She drifted off of the road. It was the middle of the night, and she hit a tree, and she sustained major internal injuries and passed away at the scene of the accident. She never even made it to the hospital. And in that one moment, in that blink of an eye, everyone's lives changed, including mine, in ways that I had no idea were going to happen. And so dramatically, but they did. We were really close families, her and me. She was young. She was 34 at the time of her death, and she was a single mom to 3 kids. They were 12, 13, and 15 when their mom passed away. And we were especially close with the 2 younger daughters. I spent a lot of time with them. We babysat them a lot. We helped her out because she was a single mom and she was trying to do things on her own. We were actually on the kids' emergency cards at school so that we could pick them up if they were sick and she wasn't able to, leave work and go get them. And then when she died, pretty much right after the funeral, even the day of the funeral, the dad of the kids got angry at me over some things that I wasn't a part of, but he felt like maybe I was. And I was not allowed to see the girls for a really long time. Like I couldn't talk to them. No communication was allowed. And the only information I could get about them really came from mutual friends that their mom and I had. And finally, after about 7 months, their dad slowly started to allow them to see us. And we started building our relationship back up again, and things were fine. And we roll into the next year, 2009, and things are not going very well at home for them with their dad. Communication had broken down. There was a lot of fighting. He was struggling. He was having a hard time. He was making some choices and some decisions and bringing some influences around the girls that, ultimately weren't really good for them. And by the Christmas break from school of 2009, the older daughter, she asked if she could come and stay with us during the break. She just wanted to get away. And we're like, yeah, totally. Come and, hang out with us and stay with us. And it was great. We had a great time. And then as we were approaching the end of the break, it was clear that she didn't want to go. She didn't want to leave and she didn't want to go back. She was really liking being with us. So we communicated with her dad's household and let him know what was happening and her desire and her wish to stay with us longer. And he was fine with it. And he let her keep staying with us. And that went on for a while. And a few short months later, the younger sister followed behind her and came and stayed with us. Things were, getting really bad at home. And so she came. So now I have both of them. And not only did we have them, but right around the same time, my teenage stepson, my husband's son, came and moved back in with us. And then we had our daughter, who was 6 at the time. So here we were, a family of 6 now in this little tiny house. And these girls were living with us. And they weren't going anywhere. So we made a choice and a decision to let them stay with us permanently. I can remember my husband and I talking about it, and it seems like it was kind of impulsive in the moment. I was like, I got this. I can do this. I know it's going to be okay. I know that we can do this. We can change their lives. We can make things better. We can influence them positively and maybe change the course and the path that they're going to be going down. That maybe they'd be going down this not so good path over here, and maybe it'll be a better one. I just felt like we had the ability to help them differently. And so the decision was made that they would stay with us permanently. And eventually, we went to court and we became their legal guardians. We basically got custody of them. And I'm so thankful and I'm so happy that we did that. We had a lot of help. During that time, there was a lot of, hard things happening. Don't get me wrong. I'd be really honest that there were chaotic moments and heartbreak and fighting and yelling and stress, lots of stress. We're dealing with teenage girls after all, and teenage girls who are mired in the muckiness of overwhelming grief and heartbreak. And it was so difficult to watch, and it was so difficult to see unfolding in front of us. The stress, I think, of the situation played into the overall stress that my husband and I were feeling. And it was part of what led me to filing for divorce in 2014. And by 2015, my husband and I were divorced. I wouldn't say that this alone was part of it, but the overall stress of everything that was happening in our lives was just really overwhelming. I don't think I was able to admit it at the time, but, now I can look back and see, wow, that was a really crazy time of life. But now that we're on the back side of that and we've made it through that period, I could see that God was with us every step of the way. He never abandoned any of us. As a matter of fact, he became bigger in our lives than he ever had been before that. The younger daughter, not long after coming to live with us, said that she wanted to go to church. And this is, by the way, somebody who had said that she blamed God for her mother's death. And I was like, you want to go to church? We're going to church. And before that, I was really sporadically coming. I was, sometimes coming, not all the time coming, but I was like, okay, we're going to go and I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a shot. And had it not been for her saying, I want to go to church, I'm not really sure I would have. I don't know. But at that point I did. And so God became once again, a huge person in my life once more. I had been gone from my faith and from God for about 20 years, and there I was back in it. And I jumped in with 2 feet, and I loved it. Since that time, my husband and I have gotten remarried. The girls are better adjusted. We're still all dealing with life, and we're still all working on things and building relationships and working on grief and just building life. But these are our daughters, and we love them and we consider them family. And God was with us all the time. He never abandoned us. And life gets messy, sometimes super duper duper messy. And it's easy to lose sight of the fact that God is there protecting us and has our best interests at heart and is directing everything that's happening to us. And there were a lot of times when I forgot that God was directing all of our choices and all of our paths and bringing us together for a reason. And he can do the exact same thing for each and every one of us. So don't forget that he's there. Keep him present all the time. He will move you through the mess and he will take you to the other side, and it's good. So that is my story, and I Hope you enjoyed it.
Christy, thank you for sharing your wild ride with us. And I do want to mention that I noticed you landed a super duper duper in there, which is 3 oopers, which means it must have been very messy. I can't imagine the mess and the stress and the frustration and the ups and the downs and the excitement. And we've got to help. We got to do something. It's not working. We're all yelling. We're all screaming. By the way, raise your hand if you're the yeller in your house. This is me raising my hand. I'm the yeller in our house. And I can't imagine just the incredible challenge it must have been raising that family, the 6 of you, trying to put the pieces together. And yet I love that you discovered that in the middle of the mess, in the middle of the loss, and a marriage that was struggling, and a relationship that you didn't want to lose, feeling like it's slipping away, realizing that in the middle of that, God never once abandoned you. And He's made a promise in His Word multiple times, but in particular, one that I've always held close to in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. He says, stay away from the love of money. Be satisfied with what you have, for God has said, I will never leave you. I will never fail you. I'll never forsake you. And the reason He starts with this money thing is that He wants us to see that oftentimes we put our hope in money, which can leave us, which has left us, which is so insecure. So don't fall in love with something so insecure, but instead fall in love with, put your hope in, have your confidence squarely rooted in the one who is fully secure, who will never leave you. And you are right on. God never left you. In fact, He got bigger through it, and He connected you to Him in spite of the mess. Thanks for sharing that story. I know it brings hope to many of us. The next story we're going to hear is from Caitlin. And Caitlin, when she first emailed me, I responded back and I said to Caitlin, it sounds like, Caitlin, this is a story that you don't want to put on video because it's a private story. It's a story you've struggled with. It's a story of how you've been coming out of your shell about this thing. And so I assume you don't want to do that. But if you do, I'm not going to stop you if you'd like to. And she said, no, I'd love to, because if my story can help somebody who is in my shoes, I want to do it. And so, Caitlin, thank you for your bravery. Thank you for your story. It's all you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin, and most of you probably don't know me. I've only been attending New Vintage for about 5 or 6 months here. But I did attend another North Point affiliated church in Florida for about 2 years. So I actually specifically sought out New Vintage when I moved here because I knew that I wanted to be a part of a community like this again, because it's been just so incredibly transformative in my life. Today I just wanted to share a little bit about my story and talk about my experiences with community groups and just being vulnerable with people and kind of a little bit of my walk with Christ. So when I joined my first community group, I really had no idea what to expect. I was just hoping to make some new friends in a new area. And so when the idea came up to share stories, I was extremely apprehensive. I'm naturally a very shy and kind of introverted person, so the idea of sharing all these kind of personal details with a whole bunch of strangers was really not appealing to me. So I've experienced probably a little bit more than my fair share of trauma over the years, and it's something that I've never really publicly spoken about and didn't really plan to, honestly. However, as that first group started to share their own stories, my heart started to soften a little bit, just hearing their experiences and hearing the things that they had been through. They spoke about and shared things in that group that I had never expected to hear within the confines of a church group. They talked about death and depression and suicide and abuse and trauma and addiction and divorce and just all of these things that I had never expected to hear about. I I grew up in a church setting, and I'd always been a part of youth groups and things growing up, but this whole idea of sharing stories and getting community like that was just totally new to me. And I always kind of thought of those things as being a little bit off limits. So as those women started to share, my heart started to soften a little bit. And so when it came time, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to give this a shot, and I'm going to get real here with these women. And one of the hardest things for me to share was my history with sexual abuse. When I was a child, I was sexually abused by a close family member whom I trusted and had spent a lot of time with. And unfortunately, I was not the only member of my family who experienced that. So growing up, I just never really talked about it, and I knew that other people in my family had experienced it, so I just kind of discounted my own experience, and my focus became protecting the people that I loved and the people around me, and I didn't really talk about my own experience. And so I had never spoken those things out loud to anyone before that first community group, and I had always thought that my experiences were too dark, too depressing, and that no one really wanted to hear that in a group setting. And I thought that people would look at me with pity, and also more than that, I didn't want that to be what people remembered about me. I didn't want that to be the defining thing that people thought about when they talked to me or when they saw me. So I was so afraid to share, but I was so wrong, and I'm so glad that I did. Because that group of women looked at me not with pity, but with pride and with strength and with understanding. And in fact, what struck me the most about that group was that I wasn't the only one with sexual abuse as a part of my history. In fact, of those 12 or 13 women in the group, 3 or 4 of us had that experience as well. As terrible as it was, that kind of deep, dark thing that I thought I was alone with and thought that this was just my burden that I had to carry, was so much more common than I realized. And that experience really opened up doors for me to talk to more people about it and to get help and to start to kind of deal with some of those underlying issues. And I just realized that, I don't have to do this by myself. So every time I've shared my story since, it has gotten a little bit easier. And the understanding and acceptance that I've found in each of these groups over the years has been just, like I said, completely transformative in my life. And I have found with every group and every story that I get to listen to and be a part of, I've found a connection and a deeper understanding of people that I never would have probably been friends with otherwise outside of those groups. So I really just encourage you guys to get out there and to, like what Darren's saying, just to don't be afraid to be real with each other. So I hope that hearing a little bit of my story and experiences today helps you all continue to dive deep and to not be afraid to be vulnerable with each other, because we truly have so much more in common than we realize, and we don't have to carry these things alone. So thank you for listening and for just being a part of this unique and supportive community here in Santa Rosa. And I hope that I get to meet you all at some point soon. Thanks.
Caitlin, I can tell you that I will not remember you because of what happened to you. I will think of you because of the courage that I see within you. Your courage to share your story is freeing for so many others. In fact, the courage that you displayed today is the very courage that some people listening, whether it's now or later, will need for their tomorrow. They're going to need the same courage that you've put on display. So thank you for sharing it. Thank you for reminding us that we don't have to do this alone. See, at New Vintage, we want to carry your burdens with you. See, Jesus said he would carry your burdens. Jesus said that his burden is light, that he's a burden carrier. And so we want to be burden carriers as well. We want to introduce you to him, not to a set of rules and behaviors that you need to follow, but to the burden carrier, the one who will carry your burdens for you. In Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, it's recorded that Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Caitlin, I believe that as you brought it to the Lord, to your community group, to people who love Jesus, you found rest. The burden began to be removed, and you're no longer strapped down by carrying around the pain all by yourself. You're free. See, I believe Jesus offers us freedom, and I believe you found that freedom, and I love seeing that freedom in you. So thank you for sharing about the freedom you found as you invited a community of Jesus followers into your story. That is awesome. The last person we're hearing from in this story is Anne Marie, which is fitting because the very first person we heard from in this story was Derek, her husband. And so it's going to come full circle for us to wrap this up. But I am stoked for you to hear her story. She shares it with confidence and with clarity. And Anne Marie was on a quest to find life, and she was looking for it in all kinds of places. And at the end of her search for the life she wanted, the life she sensed must be out there somewhere, she still hadn't found it. And when she did, when she discovered where life was really found, it changed everything. And you can see the change on her face, even as she tells her story. So Anne-Marie, thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for being brave and bold. It's your turn.
Hi, my name is Anne-Marie Ridgway, and here's my story. So I grew up in England with a single mom, and my dad lived in Africa, so I was a fatherless child. In my teen years, I was pretty wild and independent. I jumped on a plane when I was 17 and flew to Philadelphia to be with my 29-year-old boyfriend and get married, which thankfully we didn't do. My family ended up moving back to America, which is where we started, and I married a successful musician who was 20 years older than me. Classic fatherless child move. At some point, his parents became sick and passed away, and he became an alcoholic again. And I had no idea how to cope with what was happening in our lives. And I had my own baggage, and our marriage crumbled. And I was left with a baby and a young child and shattered dreams of marriage and my dream, how my life was going to go. So I spent 3 years just knuckling down and doing nothing. And after 3 years, I stepped back into the dating scene, but I was disillusioned with marriage. And so I just Friday nights went out and painted the town red and did a bunch of stupid things. A group of our friends would have pool parties. And at one point, one of the dads roofied all of us. And I woke up in the bathroom and he was taking my bikini off. And I was thinking at that point, what has happened to my life? I have sunk so low here. One of the other dads in that group ended up leaving his wife for me. So I broke up a marriage during that time too. After that happened, I woke every day with heavy, heavy guilt on my shoulders, and did not take lightly what I had done, what I had been a catalyst in, and I had nowhere to put this guilt. Thankfully God was watching out for me, and I was living in a neighborhood where I had befriended Christian women, and they would come to my house and hang out with me and ask me how my week had been, and I would tell them, and they would say, we're praying for you. And I didn't know what that meant. I had no idea. So eventually I had a calling from God. I was walking my dog, sitting on a stone in a babbling brook, and mist on the water, like the Excalibur sword could come out of the water, and the skies literally opened up, and a beam of light was only on me. And I felt God's presence, and I felt Jesus calling me, and I knew without a doubt that this was my salvation. And I've never looked back. I started going to church regularly. I threw myself into Bible study. I just drank God's word up and all his promises. And sure enough, he promises to cast all our sins to the depth of the ocean if we confess our sins and truly repent. He takes them from us. Jesus died for that. He removes our transgressions as far as the east is from the west. And Jesus came for the sick. That's all of us. He came for me, came for you. At some point, God prompted me to get myself onto Christian Mingle. And at that point, I was kind of low and thinking, who's going to want me, and who's going to look after my children and be a good stepfather? It was scary. But 4 hours later, my now husband Derek pinged me, and our profiles were pretty similar. He had a young child, and I inherited 3 beautiful stepchildren, and we have a blended family. Everyone gets along. It's just, I wake up every day and thank God for the blessing of my husband and the relationship that we have. And that's my story. Okay, thanks for listening.
Anne-Marie, thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for being so honest. And I can see the confidence and the joy and the peace and the strength written all over your face. A completely different person. You're brand new. I can imagine the way maybe you used to look when you were feeling lost and discouraged and full of shame and guilt. And I would just imagine that your countenance didn't look the same, that the brightness in your smile didn't look the same, that you are literally a brand new person. Thanks for showing us what a brand new person looks like. Thanks for sharing your story. And maybe you've been listening to this series and we're coming to an end here, and you've heard these stories about I was lost, I was full of shame, I was full of guilt, or I didn't know how to put my family together, or I got divorced, or I was going through this hard, painful thing, or my dad had been hard for me to connect with, and maybe you identified with some of that. But then we got to this part where it was like, but then God. I was in this trauma, but then God. I was hurt, but then God. I was abused, but then God. I was miserable, but then God. I was alone, but then God. I was lost, but then God. I was ashamed, but then God. I was full of guilt, but then God. I didn't know where to turn, but then God. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, I need a but then God moment, because right now you're just in phase 1. You're feeling discouraged, lost, hopeless, full of shame, guilt. Just I don't know what you're walking with, what you're carrying, the burden that you have. But see, we want to introduce you to the God who will make you new. And I believe that can happen even today. You can have a but then God moment. And it's really quite simple. You just ask him. You say, God, I have been looking for life everywhere, and I can't seem to find it. It feels like there's something in me that tells me there's more that I'm looking for, but I can't find it. If it's in you, God, I want it. Will you share it with me? I want a but then God moment in my life. So God, will you come into my life? Will you make me the person that you want me to be? Will you give me the freedom I'm looking for? Will you give me the joy I'm looking for? Will you give me the hope I'm looking for? Will you deliver me from my pain? God, will you change my life? And see, I know what you're looking for. I know that if you haven't found him yet, you are looking for life. You're looking for freedom. You're looking for hope. You're looking for meaning and purpose and value and justice. You're looking for the life that you know is in you and you can't seem to find. And I believe that there are more resources in the person of Jesus than anywhere else for you to accomplish and find those things that you're looking for. And if you'd like to begin that, all you have to do is ask him. But maybe you're at a place where you're like, well, I'm not sure if I'm ready to begin that, but I'm sure interested in learning more about it. If that's the case, we have something for you that you can sign up for today. See, the first time I ever spoke at New Vintage, I mentioned the fact that I love tacos, that my family makes tacos a lot. And so I thought it would be appropriate that I shared tacos with you. And so for the next 4 weeks, starting June 2nd, for 4 weeks at 7 o'clock Pacific time, that's 10 p.m. Georgia time, you and I are going to share tacos. I'm going to get tacos. You're going to get tacos. We're going to have Taco Tuesday, Dinner with Darren. My friend and I have written 4 just beginner level sessions about faith. And we're just going to dive in. We're going to laugh. We're going to eat tacos. We're going to spend some time asking questions. And no pressure. You're not going to fall behind. It's not some deep Bible study that you're going to have a hard time with. This is for anyone who's listening who goes, I'm at the beginning stages. I'm just new to faith. I'm new to checking this out. I'm not sure exactly where to go. I want to help you figure out where to go. I want you to have a but then God moment in your life as well. I want to meet you. I want to hang out with you virtually. And I want to share some tacos with you. Super low key, super chill, nothing to be afraid of. So if you're interested, you can go to our website, newvintage.org. You can click on the link to sign up for Taco Tuesdays, Dinner with Darren, and we'll hang out starting June 2nd, 7 o'clock for about 45 minutes. If it gets real crazy, we'll go to an hour. And I'm looking forward to meeting you and spending time helping you begin the process of discovering if but then God could be true for you as well. Thanks for tuning into the series. We have something for you. We purchased masks that say for NorCal on them. And we're giving away 2 per family starting Wednesday at noon, from noon to 1, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This week, you can come get your mask as a reminder about this series, Unmasked, Risking Reveal to Encounter Connection. You can show up at the church. You can get your mask there, 2 per family. We'd love to have you come by and say hi and grab one. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week for a brand new series called Wait For It. That's the name of the series. I'm not telling you to wait for it. Have a great week. See you guys.